Hello Andy, hope you all are doing wonderful preparation. Welcome to our channel DISC Civil Services in Detail, guiding aspirants to become officers. Let's begin our session of World Affairs, a vision for an inclusive Bangladesh. See, recently there's an article published in the Hindu which is discussing about Prime Minister Tariq Rahman's Bangladesh democratic journey, which is seeking inclusion, equality, dignity, and accountable governance. So, in this article, we are going to discuss about 1971 liberation to 2024 uprising, then to 2026, then to roadmap for future. So, what present government is aspiring to, what it is expecting. So, Bangladesh historic struggle for democracy, to future vision of Bangladesh. This is what we are going to do. See, in this article, we are not at all touching India-Bangladesh relations, but of course, we are discussing few points from India's perspective too, because being India focusing on neighborhood first policy, being a neighbor of Bangladesh, where all three sides of Bangladesh were surrounded by India's states, it's really important for us to look after what's happening in Bangladesh because of the border issue, because of the immigrations, because of the Rohingya issues, and other internal security, as well as dependence upon trade and exchanges of all these things. There's a little bit discussion on India Bangladesh perspective we are going to do. And of course, after 1971, India is the first nation which came forward to extend its hand for trade, for building those bilateral relations, strengthening strategic relations, etc. So, in this article here, they are discussing about 2024 uprising was not an isolated event in Bangladesh. Rather, it was a culmination of nearly 2 decades of democratic struggle, which came into like Bangladesh has a long, strong history of striving for democracy. Then the BNP, that is nothing but Bangladesh Nationalist Party, which is currently in government, which was consistently advocated democracy and contributed to efforts to build an inclusive society. To exclusively, this article is all discussing about inclusion or inclusive society, where the citizens from different what it's called communities, irrespective of focusing on religious or ethnicity or other community related or other what it's called differences related, they are expecting to give equal importance and build a society where it should be dependent or where it should focus more on democratic journey, which includes equality, dignity, and accountable governance. So here he is talking about a state is for all, and it should be people centered welfare system. So these are the keywords. See, this article is exclusively contained the information from 1971 to 24 to 26 to 20 future roadmap or strategic roadmap for future to arrive its or derive its whatever foreign policy or whatever global position it is expecting to gain and all these things. But it contains lots of information as well as aspirations of present government, as well as what 1971 the founders of BNP did, and what BNP's commitment to Bangladesh founding history is now expecting in under Tariq Rahman's Bangladesh presidential or government. This is what they are discussing. So later they are talking about efforts to build an inclusive society in which freedom of speech, social harmony, rule of law, and human rights are upheld. As well as they are also talking about no destruction, no revenge, no vengeance. They are urging people to build a society which based upon knowledge, peace, and justice. And also they are talking about protection of the rights and dignity of every citizen, including religious and ethnic minorities. These are the highly important points. See, here they are talking about inclusive state which should be built based upon development, development, dignity, and democracy. So they are focusing on 3Ds. See, these 3Ds has not given in the article. This is the acronym which I derived from after reading this article. So the traditional position in minority rights is rooted in the principle that Bangladesh should not be defined through a majority minority framework, regardless of religion, race, geographical location, or ideological position. Every citizen in the country should be able to enjoy their religious, political, cultural, and societal rights without any hindrance. This is what the government is expecting to build. That is nothing but religious religion is an individual matter and it is not above the state. So state is for all. It is not for any individual or any particular religion. So this principle is also reflected in the government's public program which they recently launched. So beginning of major state functions verses teaching from Quran, Gita, Tripitaka, the Bible, which they represented, reflecting the government's stated commitment to respecting citizens of all faiths equally. This is what they are talking about. State is for all. So, for the first time in Bangladesh history, Tariq Rahman government has appointed Bijan Kanti Sarkar as a special assistant to Prime Minister with the status of a state minister and responsibility for minority rights. What this is showing? So, this appointment is intended to strengthen individual or institutional attention to minority concerns as well as providing a channel through which their issues can be directly brought to Prime Minister attention. So, simple ga చెప్పాలి అంటే giving a person appointing a person in such a hierarchical position so that they can directly convey their problems to the prime minister and prime minister can have access to these people directly. So the Bangladesh government has also sought to ensure broader representation in public institutions, the cabinet, the parliament, as well as they are also talking about giving allowances to religious representatives serving those who are serving in mosques, temples, Buddhist monasteries, churches, and these policies which are intended to recognize the religious institutions across communities on an equal basis, which are demonstrating the government's commitment to treating citizens from all faiths with equal dignity. As in the very beginning of the session, I clearly mentioned it is all about equality, dignity, and accountability. So finally, it is talking about honoring 1971, embracing 2024. That is nothing but he is connecting the founding roots. So roots of or this 1971 founding of this BNP party or after liberation whatever happened to how it is going to connect its future vision to 2026 and later on. So upholding the aspirations of 1971 means ensuring democracy, development, human rights and national dignity. Finally, the two movements should not be viewed as competing narratives. The year 1971 is the root of Bangladesh national identity, while 2024 represents renewed inspiration for democracy. So 1971 is nothing but the root. So then 2024 is nothing but renewed aspiration or inspiration. Then 2026 would definitely about inclusive Bangladesh. So what about the domestic and foreign policy? Of course, the government democracy or domestic policy priority is to ensure equality education, proper healthcare for every citizen. Being a delta nation, it is also prioritizing sustainable development and environmental conservation, focusing more on job creation, social welfare, human development, economy, diplomatic relations, global trade, strategic partnership around the world, having strong stand in the geopolitics. So regarding the foreign policy, the government believes in putting Bangladesh first, like the America first, India first kind of Bangladesh first, and adopting a self-respecting, active, responsible global position based on equality, fairness, and mutual respect. So, founder of BNP, Shahid President Rahman was a proponent of SARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, and the party continues to prioritize making SARC more effective. So now the Bangladesh current government promotes friendly bilateral relations with other countries, including its neighbors. Of course, India comes the first place. So on the basis of sovereign equality, national dignity, and non-interference in each other's internal affairs with mutual benefit. Under Tariq Rahman's leadership, the Bangladesh seeks to build a people-centered welfare system, society based on peace, justice, equality. Finally, what do you want to know from this article? Simply, they are talking about inclusive Bangladesh. That is nothing but a state built on equality, dignity, and accountability. Governance should be the prime factor where it focuses on delivering accountable governance as well as a state which is giving equal dignity or equality to every citizen. This is the most important point. As well as they are also talking about people-centered welfare system with major focus on simple job creations, focusing on responsible global equality or fairness, mutual respect kind of things, as well as prioritizing sustainable development, and most importantly environmental conservation along with human development, focusing on global trade, building strong strategic relationships. So finally it is all about a struggle for democracy, human rights, inclusive inclusive and accountable government. So this is what this article is all talking about. Now you do a dimension and also understand what it is doing with India and how it is important for India. See, let me tell you one thing. Being a nation which is sharing its border with all the three sides, it is really important for having strong ties because of the border issue, or because of the interconnectivity, or because of the trade we are dependent. Of course Rohingya issues are there. So in this article we are also talking about what are the concerns or challenges India and Bangladesh have in common, as well as what are the common interests both nations have, as well as what are the groups where these two nations are partners or being part of that grouping. So yes, a stable, let me explain you once again, a stable, democratic, inclusive, sustainable Bangladesh is very much important for India. Of course, because of the connectivity, because of the border, because of the neighborhood first policy, and because of the bilateral relations and other aspects too. So India is the first one. Since 1971 it came first forward to start or extend hand for the friendships and everything. Then the rest goes on. So let's see the other important factors where India Bangladesh have common points. So what are the states which share borders other than India and Myanmar and Bay of Bengal? What are the states? So what are the common points? What are the choke points? What's happening at the border? So what about the connectivity? What about the internal security? What about the migrations? All this you have to cover in your multidimensional approach of India-Bangladesh relations. So we are not touching that dimension, but of course we are giving a discussion where after China, India is the second nation which having huge trade and generating huge economy for and having strong ties with Bangladesh. So being a nation in South Asia, what role does Bangladesh have? And what India's role is in Bangladesh building itself strong? So all these dimensions we have covered. So these are the areas of India-Bangladesh relations where it is discussing about cooperation and challenges. Yes, there are few points. There are 50 plus rivers we are commonly sharing. Of course, joint commissions is also there. We'll be discussing about that. So trade, connectivity, energy, security, broader management, border management, regional cooperations are the few areas where we are focusing on cooperations. So these are the common interests. Of course, political instability, minority concerns like ethnic issues, ethnicity comes first. Then these religious aspects, then few tribes or religion related aspects, especially in Chittagong tracks and all these things, those comes. Then of course broad border issues comes because of the lengthiest border we both share. Of course illegal migration is the concern, water sharing disputes is there, China factor because of the increasing influence of China in Bangladesh. Then after Sheikh Hasina extradition we have heard and we have done enough discussion about this, how we given shelter and all these things. Then yes, Rohingya crisis, which is a triangular issue between India, Myanmar and China. Then comes the domestic political sensitivities. Of course we have to maintain that strong strategic bilateral relations even though we have all these, because being focusing on neighborhood first policy as well as the neighbor which is sharing lengthiest border and all the, on the three sides we are the one surrounded this guy. So all these are like plus points of course. So yeah, various joint exercises of army between these two. Yes, Sampriti is the one and Milan is the one which takes between two nations. And India-Bangladesh land boundary agreement is there, which came into force following the exchange of instruments since 2025. So since 1971, there are different phases where we extended our hands for friendship, then having strong relations, then became staying away with each other, then having this misunderstanding, then again came into force, and all these things. So there are different phases. When we are discussing about India Bangladesh relations, we will be touching those aspects too. So coming back, India Bangladesh share 54 common rivers. A bilateral joint rivers commission, JRC, is working since 1972 to tackle this. And of course, India and Bangladesh are common members of SAARC, BIMSTEC, IVORA and Commonwealth. Of course, Indian Ocean region. These are the ones which are working strong for maritime security and maritime cooperation too. So yes, this is one of the prelims question which I have taken, because there is a mention of Chittagong Hill Tracts, ethnic and religious communities and Christian communities, Oron indigenous communities. There are lots of mention about these tracts in this article which we have done discussion till now. So question which is highly important from prelims perspective. So Chittagong Hill Tracts is associated with which of the following? Northern Bangladesh, Southeastern Bangladesh, Southwestern Bangladesh, Central Bangladesh. Comment your answer here. See, if you try to comment your answers, then you will be able to doing that, what it's called, practice kind of. You should know whether it's right or not. You can able to assess your preparation, or you can understand your level of presentation when you try to give answers. So if you don't give answers, it's not able to understand whether you're doing it right or not right. So yeah, this is one of the main question which I have framed here to based upon the article given here. So here the answer should be, let me give you the model answer too. So question, let's see the question. Discuss the opportunities and challenges for India arising from Bangladesh evolving political landscape. So suggest measures to strengthen India-Bangladesh relations from 1971 to different phases, then to 2000s, then to Sheikh Hasina phase, then to 2024 uprising, then to 2026, then to future. You have to cover all these dimensions. At least 360 degrees approach of multi dimensions must be done to cover this answer. Here you have to cover everything since 1971. So, okay, geographical, connectivity, you will talk everything, but not like a Ramayana, or not like writing essay or something. Write hardly in 150 to 200 words. That's it. No need to generate this essay. No, just in 200 words, prepare your answer, and if possible, try to draw map too, which should indicate this Bay of Bengal, these choke points between two nations. So geographical, economical perspective, cultural exchanges perspective, religious, of course, transport, trade, connectivity, technology, and political instabilities, as well as extending hands and importance or role of SAARC and other nations. You will talk about all these things, as well as you can also talk about this strategic partnership around these behind these between these two nations, and environmental conservations, what they are taking, sustainable development, what they are talking about, as well as education, healthcare system. Is there any defense cooperation, or is there any mechanisms which are working on maritime operations and all these things, cooperation and all these things? You just talk about, and also mention these Sampriti and Milan exercises too. So this is all about this article. I hope this is really helpful for the one who are really preparing, sincerely preparing for their upcoming competitive exams. So this is exclusively for the one who are trying to give their best in mains and so these kind of terminologies, vocabulary, keywords are really helpful for writing good answers. So this is really helpful for the one who are preparing their APPSC, TGPSC. So whoever are preparing for their competitive exam, the facts which are given from prelims perspective are also helpful for the one who are writing SSC, CLAT or bank POs, etc. So for exclusively UPSC, it is for important from general studies exclusively, which is discussing about international relations and essay, and the one who are from world history perspective to this also carries huge weightage. So yeah, finally this is all about this article. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day.